Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. And I can't tell you how heartening it is to really be with a group of doctors that you can actually call colleagues. Seems like today that's getting a little bit harder to be able to say that about some of our physician confreres. So, and also a big thank you to all the previous speakers. You've done great jobs. And thank you for proving that the medical system is broken so that I don't have to. And it kind of saves me some time. Today I was asked to give an update on the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. And I'm going to do that, but I want to give insights from what Keith and I have done over the 26 years, but successes and failures, and do it in a way that will share that with you, all right? So Dr. Keith Smith and I founded the Surgery Center of Oklahoma 26 years ago, but it was the severe detour that we took 14 years ago that really first got us attention. We quit the insurance world. We posted our bundled prices online that are typically 6 to 10 times cheaper than the hospitals. We even hear that ChatGPT gives us credit for starting the price transparency war in the United States. And it's AI, so it's got to be true, right? I mean, can't be in doubt. Now, my message today is going to be straightforward, and I want to only do two things. I want to challenge you, but I also want to encourage you. So first, the challenge. Now, I really believe that those of us in this room have to be the ones to change the medical system. Now, I'm sure your first question should be, why us? There are other people that participate in the medical system. There are patients. There are corporations. The government is participating. So why us? Well, I think there's several reasons, but the first one is that we took an oath to protect patients. And Dr. Harrison did a great job last night telling us about the Hippocratic Oath and why that's so important. The second reason, I think, comes from a little bit of scrutiny. And have you ever asked who's harmed by the medical system? I think we all know the patients are, but we typically don't think the doctors are also. And, Dr. Wastrel also, yesterday talked about doctor suicide. That's something that we typically don't know, but I've seen some studies that claim that our suicide rate is as high as returning veterans' suicide rate. So here's Houdini. And this is how I visualize the average doctor day, restrained in so many ways from doing what's best for the patient. The frustration is overwhelming. Doctors are retiring early or becoming employees or sadly taking their own lives. And the other huge travesty is that young doctors, and I'll show that briefly at the end, but what's going on with them we really need to discuss. So doctors and patients are harmed by the system. And so then, like a laissez-faire economist or a free market economist always asks, cui bono? Who's benefiting, right? So who's benefiting from the broken healthcare system? Do we really believe that either of these two entities, the government or corporations, right? Government is gaining control. Our corporations are raking in record profits. Do we really believe that these two entities are going to help fix the system that they are benefiting from? I think it's maybe time that we look to ourselves and a little less to our congressman to see, okay, who's going to fix this? Okay, so I believe it's our challenge in this room to fix the system. So now on to the how to fix the system and the encouragement that I'm promising you. So I'm going to give you, to do this, I'm going to give you a very brief insider's history of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma and kind of what I would call the untold story. And it's to demonstrate that our steps were mostly small and the risks were modest, and that these modest risks turned into something very big in the end and really kind of almost unintended. So the lesson that we learned, anyway, is that small local efforts are the ones that made the big difference for us. Okay, so here's a summary of our steps. Step one was we had to acknowledge our frustration and the quality of the care and the price gouging that the hospitals were doing in the hospital that we were in before we started the surgery center. And so our choice was pretty easy. It was either do nothing and be unhappy for the rest of our careers, or do something about it. And as doctors, we wanted to be in charge of the quality and price of the care that we were delivering. So the second step was due diligence that you do before starting any business, and that's going to be different for all of us with our different situations. But then step 3, financial commitment, where the scariness begins for all of us. But we made it a reasonable step. So Keith and I and about 12 surgeons purchased the operations of a failed surgery center for a fair price, and then to defer the risk, the further risk, financial risk, we rented this first facility that you see there on the screen. And this was our first staff in 1997. So we're considered rebels in the industry, but there's a secret. Step 4 was the only remotely rebellious thing that I will say that we did on day 1. And step 4 was to not take government money. No Medicare, no Medicaid. Thank you. But otherwise, what I'm going to say is we were just like every other facility except for maybe our understanding that we had 2 customers. We had the patients, but we also realized that the surgeons were our customers also. So we focused like a laser, giving them the best care in town. And so still today, our surgeons will tell us they get twice as much done at our place as anywhere in town. So from here, our reputation grew, and this is what happened. Here's step 5 on St. Valentine's Day, 2003. We moved into our beautiful new 32,000 square foot home. Again, another big financial commitment, and it was a several $million build, but convincing 30 surgeons that they wanted to be their own landlord was really pretty simple, and that mitigated the risk we had there. So at this point, we've gone along about 6 years in our history, and that's when the untold story, I think, really begins. So about a year or so into our new building, our surgery numbers began a steady decline, and within a 2 or 3 year period, actually things started looking pretty desperate. And what we found was that insurance companies had found legal but illicit ways to frighten patients from choosing our higher quality, lesser priced surgery. And they were doing it by manipulating deductibles and copays. So I would say our step 6 was another easy thing. It was either respond or go out of business. Okay? So our hands were tied. All right, so here's our response, and this is what we are now best known for. This is step 6, coming up with our transparent, reasonable bundled pricing and putting it out there for the world to see. Now, coming up with our pricing took some very sophisticated analytics. I would say about second grade math, probably. It was purely arithmetic. So we added up our costs, surgeon's fees, anesthesia's fees, surgery center and supplies, and then we added like a 10 or 15% margin to that, and we posted it online. So it's essentially cost plus. It doesn't matter if you're a yard man or you're Elon Musk, the price is the price. Hillary might charge a little more, but otherwise we pretty much stick to our pricing. No bait and switch at our place. Okay, so let me show you how it works. Let's say you need a tonsillectomy, and you go to the avatar and you would press on the throat. You would see this. You would scroll down till you get tonsillectomy, and then you just press on that, and then voila, there it is, $3,875 all in. That's the surgeon, anesthesia facility, whole bundle right there. So even this 6th step, the point I want to make is that the decision that we're most known for wasn't a super risky thing, and it was another thing that almost just felt like a domino being tipped over, right? I mean, so what I'm going to say, these are the small steps that I think put us on the map, but then the rest is how, in essence, we kind of became viral. Step 7 is how Oklahoma City became the mecca of the free market medicine movement in the United States. Now, all of these local businesses that you see up there, and there are quite a few more, offer some transparent bundled pricing just like we do. And all of these facilities, though, provide services that we don't, like 360 Spines or Cabbages or, anyway, on and on. Lots of things that we don't provide and can't provide, right? But we convinced them that there was a market for transparent bundled pricing. And I got to tell you, this step paid off in spades because it gave our model more credibility. And it also, by having more people offering services under our model, it made it much easier for businesses to try us on for size. Okay, so step 8 is how the influence of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma went nationwide. And I'll start off with patients. So today about 40% of our patients come from out of state. And I'll give you a crazy but a fairly typical example. The Alaska Teachers Union has a relationship with us. And so if a teacher from Alaska will fly to Oklahoma to have their gallbladder out, total knee replacement, hysterectomy, whatever, the union will pay 100% of their expenses, so it will literally be free for the teacher. And here's the big deal, right? Even with all of those expenses, what happens is they save money hand over fist than if the patient stayed in Anchorage to have their surgery. So really, really, really surprising and shocking. Okay, another way transparent pricing is literally spreading around the nation is the Free Market Medical Association. It was founded by Keith Smith and Jay Kempton, and it came into existence to do two things, to educate folks on free market principles and to unite these folks to light the powder keg. And here's how it works. Typically, there are three main groups that it unites. The doctors in this model are the sellers. Businesses that want to save millions of dollars are the buyers. And then the third group are the ones that actually bring these two groups together. And typically in this example, it's third-party administrators, ERISA attorneys, and some brokers are starting to become honest. So, slow. The third nationwide group, I think, is also super exciting. Now, these are companies that have entered the industry to make the exchange of medical goods and services more streamlined and transparent. And if you look at these, they're billing companies, they're IT companies, credit companies, stop-loss carriers, pharmacy benefit managers. So a point that I will not do a good job in really stressing today, but the yearly Free Market Medical Association conference is where all of these innovators on a yearly basis unite. So all of these rebels come together once a year. So doctors, if you have any inkling that you are trying to break out of the system and you want resources, this is where you begin making your priceless relationships. And this year, we will have our 10th anniversary conference in Oklahoma City. And I promise you, it will be sold out. I know that's something you hear on TV. Hurry before it's all sold out. But it really will happen. So if you even have an idea that you want to, do it sooner than later. All right, our 9th step. We actually have a 10th step on the horizon, but I'm not at liberty to tell you about it just yet, so you'll have to stay kind of curious and keep tuned. But our 9th step are the medical students. So here are Keith and I at the Surgery Center just a couple of weeks ago with the medical students from OU that are members of the Benjamin Rush Institute. So I know many of you know Benjamin Rush was one of the 5 physician signers of the Declaration of Independence, and he really believed in medical freedom and that it needed to be at the core of our Constitution. And he really believed without that the doctor-patient relationship would die. So just a funny story, we got the job of mentoring these medical students because none of the faculty at OU would do it. So we said, yeah, bring them on. And we have had so much fun because we bring in speakers that have had all kinds of experiences, been publicly employed, hospital employed, work for themselves. And so we give them a really good view of everything that's out there. And Also, we actually even bring bankers to come and tell them why it's better to rent their soul than sell their souls. So they love that message. Okay, continue with the medical students. I know that this is hard to believe for some of us, but what we learned from being around these young doctors in training is that they are literally petrified to speak about their values or practices when they're at school. Some of the timidity we've seen would break your hearts. I mean, that these kids, when they came, they were like scared to drink a beer in front of us. The stories could go on. But what's happening to these medical students is truly horrific. The woke agenda would take an entire lecture to describe. Dr. Remy Moon in the room here, she's told us that when she was on the admissions committee that they had stopped using MCAT scores and they were getting ready to stop using grades to evaluate these kids for admission to the medical schools. So, and if you want to leave today taking a worthwhile cause, please consider helping these medical students or helping us help them. So the Free Market Medical Association has a goal this year to have 100 students, medical students, attend the conference. That's going to be about a $40,000 project and about $400 a student. So I've left a flyer in your packet, and if you guys have any ability to do it, I know the economy's kind of rocky and things are kind of tight, but if you guys, it is a worthwhile cause. And I'll tell you one more thing about the Free Market Medical Association. So Keith and Jay really put every penny into it. So if you're looking for somewhere where your money goes to good use and it's not wasted or going into somebody's pockets, it really is a good place. Okay, let me conclude. So here's what we know about Houdini. He always escaped. So doctors, I think you all can escape also. And I think this is what we should want to look like, right? Untethered from government coercion, unchained from corporately captured medicine, free to do its best for the patient. So I'm going to leave you today with what I think is one of mankind's most difficult questions ever, and it's repeated itself throughout the centuries. So here's the question. When is a system so broken or in such chaos, like the medical system is today, that we can no longer participate, that our only choice is to leave that system? We know the question plagued the soldiers in Nazi Germany when they learned of Hitler's atrocities and had to decide, obey or rebel. In Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, the question plagued friends who were asked to turn in innocent friends or family to the authorities to be either tortured or killed. And we know they had to decide, obey or rebel. Now, in stark contrast, your and my consequences for stepping out of the system are stressful, for sure, but not quite life and death like theirs was. So, what I hope I've shown today, and I'm kind of a little remiss saying this, but a lot of people, credit Keith and I, and they say that we're heroes. And I kind of recoil when people say that, because by intimating somebody's a hero, you mean that they've gone way out of the way, done something almost insurmountable. And that's not what we've done. And I hope that what I've shown today and been very clear about, that the founding of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma involved modest risks, that the rebellion that ensued was hardly intended, that our decisions were almost forced upon us, and then I showed the huge fruits that spread from this relatively small amount of effort. So our experiences have led us to believe that there are huge rewards for those who will choose to act. So please be encouraged, for sure. Continue your steps, whatever they are. We still have the freedom to do so. So, thank you very much.